Welcome back, y'all. This is none other than the incredible T.O.P. And this is for episode number 5 of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Of course, this is Marvelous Reviews. And I'm joined by none other than Mr. Briyan Wryter once again to cover this episode. And as an included bonus, we're going to cover episode 6 and wrap up the series. So welcome back, Brian. Thanks again for coming through and kicking it with me on this live about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and what we see, symbolically, at least, happening in the show.
Peace. Thank you for having me back, man.
Oh, absolutely. As usual, you got your T-shirt game on fire with the Captain America shield.
Yes, sir.
I gotta get my T-shirt game up, man. I swear I do. Because I mean, like, a lot of people might feel some kind of way about it, but that's just me expressing the kid in me. You know what I'm saying? It's because I grew up playing with toys. You know what I'm saying? G.I. Joes, Transformers. We had Mask, Dungeons and Dragons. It was all kinds of stuff when I was growing up. Nowadays, the toys is cheap. You know what I'm saying? And they badly made. So that is what it is. But what it is today on the Top Cast is episode number 5 of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, entitled Apropos Truth. And we come into this episode coming from the last episode when the new Captain America, John Walker, uses the great symbol, which is Captain America's shield, supposed to symbol freedom and all the good things that America is supposed to symbolize, that it really doesn't. And he uses it to bludgeon one of the flag smashers to death, who indirectly has something to do with Lamar Hoskins dying, but wasn't the person who actually caused the killing. This is classic Marvel action that they start this episode off with. You start off with John Walker running into what seems to be like a empty or abandoned type of a warehouse, and he's followed closely by Bucky and Falcon. And because of his actions being broadcasting around the world, on the internet, because nowadays people don't help you when you getting your neck stomped on by a police officer. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace, Mr. Floyd. They put it on, they record it on camera and it's broadcast all around the world. So that to say, Big Brother is watching, and they've got you watching everybody else. But we get into a classic Marvel action fight scene between Bucky Barnes, Falcon, and John Walker, who has now, by the way, taken the new version of the Super Soldier program, Super Soldier Serum, rather. And I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but the way that is put forth is that the Super Soldier Serum that Bucky Barnes has taken is not the same version as the Super Soldier Serum that Captain America has taken. And also in the comics, more so than the MCU, because in the MCU, they don't, they take that, they took that out of her character. In the comics, the Black Widow also has a version of a Super Soldier Serum. And what I noticed in this fight scene, the symbolism of it is you have this all-powerful white guy representing America. And you have, if Falcon, as a black guy, would have went up against him by himself, he would have undoubtedly lost. Being that John Walker did, in fact, take the Super Soldier Serum that he found, the last valve, when Carly Morgenthau got shot by Zemo in the last episode. By the way, Zemo is MIA, everybody. But what struck me is that because this often happens, in regular life when it comes to things like racism, for example. As a Black person, you can't prove that any white person is a racist. You always have to go and get another white person.
Mm.
And that's some of the symbolism that I see in this fight scene, based on my understanding of how this thing works. What are your thoughts on the opening fight scene for episode number 5? I mean, don't get me wrong. Now, I was geeked like a motherfucker because I like action and, I like superheroes. But I can't ignore, the interpretations that I have based on what I see.
I think you basically, man, you covered it all, man. I haven't got too much to say. I definitely enjoyed the fight scene. And I mean, I did think, like initially that they made John Walker seem more powerful than what I thought he should be. But after hearing you talking about the different version of the super soldier serum, like you said that Bucky Barnes had a watered down version of it versus Captain America, because the one that Captain America took, it gave him muscles and everything, and the one that the one that John Walker and Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers took is it kind of the different version too. It just gave you the strength and gave you everything without changing your physiology. Your outward physiology, I should say. But yeah, man, like I thought that I still kind of thought that he was kind of overpowered in that fight scene, because you still got Bucky Barnes with a version of the super soldier serum in him, and he has a cybernetic arm, and he has a whole nother grown man out trained by Captain America how to fight, and it took both of them to deal with this guy. But
I mean, you got to keep in mind now, John Walker is a trained soldier.
True.
So you have to take that into consideration, just like Bucky Barnes, even though he's an assassin now, or he was anyway. Prior to that, he was a trained military man because he fought, with Captain America back in the first Captain America movie.
Cool.
But
But all three of them trained soldiers, though. They're all
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That they all so. You know, what I mean, I just thought he was kind of made him kind of overpowered in that scene. But at the same time, but it made for a good fight.
That would speak to the different versions of the super soldier serum. And like I was explaining it to you, Bucky Barnes he received what would be the equivalent of the super soldier program, the serum, from the Russian super soldier program, because that program is not the same as the American version. You got different doctors. So, or not Russian, but Hydra.
Yeah.
Rather. I just say Russian because they kept Bucky in Siberia. But he got the Hydra version of the super soldier program, which is going to be a little bit different than what Captain America received. You understand what I'm saying? Which is different than what John Walker received, because remember, in the previous episodes, they met the guy, the scientist who made this version of the super soldier program, and he specifically stated that he perfected it to where it didn't do you like Captain America, where when you took the serum, it didn't change your physiology, but you got all of the positives from it. Like you got the super strength, etc., which is, what we see when we observe Carly Morgenthau, because she looks like an unassuming young woman until she punched your ass through a wall. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just to give a little more context to him being, or seemingly being, more overpowered than both Bucky and Sam Wilson. And then you got to keep in mind, Sam Wilson is just a regular dude. He doesn't have any upgrades. And I don't believe he even had any super soldier serum in the comics either, if I'm not mistaken. He just always was just a regular guy.
Yeah.
You know, which in and of itself is admirable, you know.
Yeah, indeed.
So that's my saving grace with him. But after the opening fight scene, basically Bucky and Sam Wilson, they go back to America now. And John Walker also goes back to America to stand trial for what is now considered to be a crime. Him publicly killing the flag smasher. And really, it's just a bad look on the country. It's not that they don't condone what he actually did. Because after all, you know, the United States is interested in bringing the flag smashers to justice for obvious reasons. But I wanted to talk about the trial proceedings that John Walker went through, because just here recently, we seen the officer who killed George Floyd. We seen that he got a sentence of like 22 and a half years. When I personally know guys who have not ever killed anybody and have life sentences. And it speaks to the fact that white folks can do things and, you know, basically get a slap on the wrist for their crimes. Because any other you know, if you're working for the United States, you could basically got the license to kill, but they got plausible deniability, and they'll say that they didn't authorize you to do it, which is exactly what happens to John Walker. Did you have any input or any thoughts on this particular part of the episode? Because another thing I noticed is that his wife or girlfriend or significant other, she also appeared in this scene. And I also thought it highly odd, but highly important for people to notice that she's quote unquote racially ambiguous. She's definitely not a white woman. And we happen to see this same theme repeated in media over and over and over again, in commercials, etc., where you have a white man with a non-white woman. But you don't see much of the opposite with non-white men and black women, you know, pushed out as, you know, almost as if it's an agenda. Did you have any thoughts on that particular part of the episode?
The point you made about how government operatives can, you know, they can kill and do unlawful things and not get punished with the same severity as a civilian. Now we see that played out all the time. You know, yeah, man. That's really about it with that. You know what I mean, I guess he was court-martialed to a degree. And they fired him. No punishment, no jail time or anything. You know,
yeah, I would say it was probably more like a dishonorable discharge. Yeah, it seems like, but I'm not a military professional, so I don't know exactly what to label it as. But that is what immediately comes to mind. Yeah. In light of what I was just saying about, you know, the dynamic between him and the lady who's supposed to be his love interest, another thing that I noticed at this part is that after the conclusion of the trial, he's approached by another woman who just so happened to be a white woman. And this woman got a shitload of power. She already know all about him, et cetera, et cetera. And just watching this dynamic, I just found it to be incredibly interesting why a white man is not with a white woman and he with a non-white woman. But you got a white woman who obviously is as powerful or more powerful than him. So, I mean, it's just that I found that to be very, very odd. you know, and like you said in the previous 4 episodes, Marvel does a very good job at presenting what happens in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that that was an interesting interesting dynamic happening, because it also speaks to, you know, things like feminism and how powerful women are and have become.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any particular information on that character, the Contessa, aka Madam Hydra? You know anything about her from the comics?
Yeah, her name is Contessa Valentina Allegra de La Fontaine.
Mm-hmm.
In the comic book, she basically became a shield agent,
Mm-hmm.
and she gained the she basically impressed Nick Fury after subduing him in a one-on-one hand-to-hand combat situation. And they did have a little fling in the comic book.
Okay, interesting. Just so that people know that the Nick Fury that we know from the MCU, Samuel L. Jackson, as a black guy, in the comics, Nick Fury is a white guy.
Yep.
I just thought that's important for folks to know.
It is.
After the legal proceedings with John Walker, we skip to the Flag Smashers, and they having like a little flashback type thing. This part of the episode kind of seemed out of place because, you know, like I mentioned way back in episode 1, you know, I don't know it for a fact, but a lot of other, you know, Marvel fans have spoken on it, and that's that they gutted the storyline. They changed the storyline, so a lot of the Flag Smasher scenes seem like out of place, and like they don't really fit in the overall context of the episode. But after that, we get to we finally see Zemo again, and Zemo we find Zemo at the Sokovia Memorial. And if you don't know where Sokovia is Sokovia is from the Avengers Age of Ultron. This is the town or the city that Ultron ultimately destroyed during that movie. And Zemo is like the Tony Starks of Sokovia. And this is where because remember when the Dora Melange came to collect Zemo during all the melee, Zemo hauled ass.
Mm-hmm.
And we're now just catching back up to him. And this is where we find out that Bucky has really gone through a change, because Zemo thought that Bucky was going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. And it reminds me of that scene at the end of Civil War when Zemo go to kill himself and the Black Panther stop him from doing it.
Mm.
Because, you know, Marvel carries the same scene themes throughout each movie. So like in the new Loki, for example, when after he take the Tesseract in Endgame, right, you see the same scene from Iron Man 1, where Iron Man came out the cave and then he flew into the desert and he crashed into the sand. You see Loki doing the same thing. So you have these same recurring themes throughout the movies. If you pay attention, you'll see it. So another one is, for example, you seen Thor Ragnarok, right? Mm-hmm. When the Grandmaster used that stick to melt the guy.
I don't remember that part, but go ahead though.
Well, they got the same thing going on, the same theme going on in Loki. The point I'm making is that you see this throughout all of the Marvel content over and over and over again. And you also see the same thing in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But this particular part, you know, the dialogue between Winter Soldier and Zemo is it's interesting, And also, we get to see the ladies of the Dora Melange again when they actually take Zemo to jail. And what struck me about this is how cool Zemo was about it. You know, he didn't fuss or fight. You know, it's just I'm rich. I could go sit up in jail. I'm gonna be all right. Anytime the Dora Melange show up, you know, I'm all starry eyed and shit. I don't know how it is for you, but yeah, they wanted my. I'm a fan of the Dora Melange, especially right. on the silver screen. Any commentary on this particular part of the episode?
Nah, man, I don't have anything. You know what I mean. Nothing. I mean, I want to say something more about the Tessa Valentina, and when she approached John Walker after the court martial, whatever you want to call it, the charge. I noticed that the government, U.S. It just speaks to that how the U.S. government, you know, regardless after a man is dishonorably discharged, even for murder, you know, they still can find use for him, you know.
Yeah, Mr. Fuller speaks on that. He says that white folks don't get fired; they get reassigned.
True. Very true.
And that's an example. That's a fictional example, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of us in our everyday lives have seen that very thing. It might even have happened, in our immediate vicinity.
Very true.
So, another thing that I wanted to say about the Zemo Bucky Barnes scene is that Bucky Barnes has this list that he's trying to make amends, and Zemo just happened to be one of the people that was on that list. And so him turning him into the Dora Melange allows him to cross him off of that list. And I think this is why Bucky didn't kill him instead.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty interesting. Peace to Mr. John Royal. How you doing?
Peace.
And to anybody who's going to catch the playback or any secret watchers, we appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, because I'm trying to remember. It's just so surprising to me that this episode, just like with WandaVision, it almost seemed like so long ago, even though it was like a month, maybe a month and a half at the most. But after Zemo gets turned in by Bucky, we shoot back to Isaiah Bradley, the first Black Captain America, and Sam goes back to Baltimore to visit him, and they have a black man to black man conversation as to why Sam initially didn't want to take the shield, and now what his new thoughts are in regards to what his decision is going to be going forward. Anything about this part of the episode that you want to touch upon before I give my thoughts?
Yeah, man. I think Isaiah Bradley explained that. Like, I think Isaiah Bradley explained his story and his perspective on Sam Wilson possibly taking the shield in a very realistic and on code way as a black man. Some may say that Isaiah Bradley says his perspective on things was more nihilistic, and Sam Wilson was more optimistic, trying to figure things out. But yeah, the way Isaiah Bradley just broke it down, and it reminded me of, as we both know, the way that America has always experimented on black people. imprison us for doing the right thing, because because he was in prison for trying to save his fellow soldiers from being slaughtered.
And just to cut in right here, that's another theme carried from the Marvel movie, because that's the very same thing that Captain America did in the first Captain America movie.
True, yeah.
Remember how he was sitting at the camp and he kept saying, "Is there more that I could do?" And he ended up going out on his own with the help of Peggy Carter and Howard Stark, and he ended up saving 200 some people. But him as a white guy didn't get in trouble for doing it. He got celebrated for it, but Isaiah Bradley got the opposite.
Isaiah Bradley got demonized for that and in prison for that.
Exactly. And I thought that this was a very important part of the episode, because it shows the thinking, between the older generation of Black people and the younger generation of Black people, and in regards to the code, because in my opinion, Isaiah Bradley is much more on code than Falcon is. And like you said, he seems to be much more optimistic, which I equate to confusion, in regards to racism, because many of us are very confused about how the system works. We think, so I'll give you an example. Like, I've been to prison before, so it gives me a certain perspective. And when I first got out of prison, I blurted out a thought that I had in my head. And the thought was, damn, I'm out here in the quote unquote free world, but it don't really feel much different than when I was in prison, with the exception that I still got to get up and go do something that somebody else told me to do. Now I got the illusion of choice that I don't have to do it, because if I don't have to do it, then I have no money to eat. Whereas in prison, if you don't do it, they punish you by putting you in segregation, but you still eat. So prison is very much an analogy for the greater society. It's the microcosm of the macrocosm. And unless you have that direct experience, it's very difficult for you to envision that. So like going to the grocery store for me is the same thing as going to the commissary in jail. And if they don't have it, you can't get it. And it's just my opinion that I think Isaiah Bradley had a lot more of a realistic view of how things really work. And to speak on the experimentation side, I've mentioned this book before. It's called Medical Apartheid. And it's written by a sister named Harriet Washington. And it basically gives you an account of the experimentation that has been performed on Black people historically, just in the context of this country, the United States of America. And it also speaks to the fact that a lot of folks are unaware that there are a lot of instances where prisoners have literally been experimented on. The Holmesburg State Prison experiments is one such case. So a lot of people are aware of things like the Tuskegee experiment, but those weren't prisoners.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So again, to speak to your comment that Marvel actually does quite a good job at reflecting on screen through their material what actually happens in the greater society. And we have a tendency to miss it because we stuck on the action and the entertainment part. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I thought the conversation was a very good conversation. It was a very good dialogue, and I'm glad they put it in this episode. It needed to be stated. It needed to be heard by people. In those two worlds, like you said, the old and the young, and for me, it's more so not even about the age difference. More so just about the different perspectives. But because the elder was speaking, the younger person was listening. for change, and not saying but and what if and all that. You know, just that the dynamic was a very healthy on display on how those type of conversations should go. One person talks and teaching and giving you education about history or something, and that person should be listening to define what's useful and what's not.
I agree. And, you know, just speaking about us specifically as Black people, that's something that I think that we have lost. So in my own personal life, I've always been a little separated from my contemporaries, you know, people in my age group. And that's because as a young kid, I've always hung around significantly older people. So when other little boys was playing in the dirt at 10 years old, I was getting some wisdom from the winos, learning how to play chess and shit up underneath the tree. And that to say that I spend a lot of time, you know, absorbing the wisdom and, you know, from their experience from older people more so than people in my same age group. And so I was able to get things that, you know, may have taken them much, much more time to come to understand. And I would say that instinctively, I understand that older folks are valuable, and they're valuable because of their experience. And that it's not something that you should just push to the side as if it has no significance, because you don't get old by being stupid. You know, and I think the conversation that Isaiah Bradley was having with Sam Wilson is an important one, because it shows both of the general schools of thought or lines of thought, and they both are valid. But I think with the younger people, you know, and I was once a young person myself. So, you know, I can somewhat identify with what younger people go through being an older person, because I was young and idealistic, like how Sam Wilson comes off. You know, okay, yeah, we've been through all these things. These people have done all of these things to us. Yet, are we going to just, you know, put all that sacrifice to the side? I understand that argument. But at the same time, we have to consider the fact that, yes, these folks did all of these things to us, and then none of it is correct. How long do we keep allowing it to happen before we put our foot down and say no more? So that's the essence to me of what the conversation was. Next, another trope of this society. we go back to Louisiana, where Sam is now home, kicking it with his family and his friends, and he invites his white friend Bucky along. And Bucky gets to eyeing his sister, and she gets to eyeing him back. Again, another trope with the white man, black woman dichotomy, but you don't see the opposite happening. Like, you didn't see Sharon Carter hitting on no black dudes. She was about her, what she was doing.
About her
you
business.
Understand what I'm saying? About her business. And the white man is, but like in the form of Bucky Barnes and Zemo and everybody else, they're about their business. But the black woman is about the white man. and the black man is about being friends with the white man and inviting him to his house. Wow, this is a really significant part of this whole series, but this episode in particular, because it just speaks volumes, because I have seen this before. Me personally, it's nothing personal. I don't hate white people. This is business. It's not personal. This is the business white folks have chosen, to abuse black people. I don't condone that. So I'm going to do what I have to counter you abusing me. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, because I'm pretty sure you don't want me to abuse you. You know what I'm saying? You're going to do what you got to do to prevent that. And shout out to Mr. Fuller for giving us the first brick, the cornerstone in the foundation to being a counter racist. It all starts with your thought, your speech, and your action.
Indeed.
Because obviously this racism thing is more difficult to solve than nuclear physics and rocket science put together. Because it's still here. And we see it in MCU content, really in all forms of media. We just don't often quickly identify it for what it is. But again, there's already a running theme in media where you see this pairing of white men with, non-white women. Prince Harry is a perfect example of this. And Meghan Markle was over there running them crazy. Mm-hmm. But I really only find this part of this episode interesting because of that dynamic. Do you have any comments in regards to that?
No, I see it as business as you.
That's an interesting choice of words. Business as usual. Mm-hmm. Very interesting choice of words. I can certainly appreciate that sentiment because, again, this is the business that we were born into. Mm-hmm. It's very unfortunate, but my contention is that it's each of our responsibility as non-white people to do whatever we can do to counter it.
Indeed.
And because that's the only way right now that we are able to chip away at it. And that starts with your thought, your speech, and your action. And there's going to be a lot of thoughts that you have that you're going to have issue with. Mm-hmm. Like it's very difficult. And I totally understand. It's very difficult for Black folks to think that their white friend or their white mate could be a white supremacist. It's just hard to even deal with that kind of a thought. But the truth of the matter is they could be. Mm-hmm. How would you know? And what I have come to find in my experience is that most of us we don't seem to care. And that in and of itself assists the system and keeps it functioning. But we also found that not only did Sam bring his friend home, but his friend comes with new toys that he got from other Black people. So Sam gets a new suit.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
go ahead.
I got one more thing to say. When Sam had brought, and invited Bucky Barnes to his house, they were talking. They had a conversation, and Bucky Barnes was going through therapy, trying to find some resolve, trying to heal
the proverbial crazy white man.
Yeah, trying to resolve from being a Winter Soldier, right? And he's saying he was amending. And Sam Wilson said no. Said in his opinion, he said, you weren't amending, you're avenging. And it's something that he said. Sam Wilson said to Bucky. I'm gonna try to paraphrase it the best as I can. That reminded me of Black people speaking to America, demanding reparations. Versus how white America, or just America in general, chooses to amend in their own way. All right. So he was saying to Bucky about how you're going around with his little book full of names, reaching out to the people to tell them I'm sorry, thinking this will make you feel better. And he gave him some tough love. He says, if you really want to basically if you want to feel better or make you or if you really want to amend for your wrongdoing, you need to go to these people and make them feel better. Be a service to them. And that, if some reason, it made me think about reparations. You know, Juneteenth just came and went. You know, and they made Juneteenth a holiday this year, 2021. And you got a lot of black people saying, "Yeah, that's cool to make a holiday, but what about the reparations?" It seems like America likes to give us symbolic gestures and nigga trinkets. Word
That's interesting. Nigga trinkets.
It's one to coin that term. Whether I mean think intangibles, rather than give us tangibles, rather than give us reparations to repair for what they did, and it just reminded me, and what Sam Wilson told Bucky Barnes to me, it just reminded me of black people just letting America know, if you want to amend for what you did, this is what you do. You don't do what you want to do. You do what we're telling you. That's what I mean. We're telling you what we need, what we want. So I just wanted to point that out as far as that talk that Sam Wilson had with Bucky Barnes about amending for his wrong.
Exactly. And what we know from experience is that it doesn't happen, and it's probably not forthcoming anytime soon, because according to Bernie Sanders, we can't talk about reparations. It's divisive. And he's allegedly a Jew who's not supposed to be white. But after this part of the episode, we go into the next set of scenes, and I found this part to be interesting also, because Battlestar Lamar Hoskins has already been killed. And John Walker's already been through his trial. His arms broke. And you have him going to Mr. Hoskins' family, to offer his condolences. And what stuck out to me about this part of the episode is that you always have the white man with the black sidekick, but the black sidekick always ends up dying or getting hurt in some kind of way. And then the white man has to go and tell the family, "Oh, well, we thank you for his service, but he's no longer alive." But we tend to die assisting white folks, and that's what stuck out to me about Sam Wilson's line of thinking and this particular part of the episode. Do you recall this particular scene where, again, a white man is being embraced by a crying black woman? This running theme that seems to be being shown, and you see the father, sitting in the background when this scene happens, and and at the end of the day, he can't offer them anything other than condolences. And I see this happen with us in real life. What do you think about that? Did you happen to see the same thing?
Yeah, that's a good point. You pointed out about the emotional black woman embracing the white male, and when she was embracing,
kind of reminds you of like when Trayvon Martin got killed, and things like that. The black woman loses her male child, and there's always some white man to show up to say everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah. It's a sickness. I'm gonna talk about it, and I don't even want to even put it just on black females right now, because we saw what happened with I forgot the brother's name. but the brother that got shot in his apartment while he was eating ice cream, he got shot by the white female cop in his own apartment. And when she was sentenced, you got the black female judge, hugging her, I think, patting on her shoulder, and even the brother of the slain, that's slain by the white female cop, up there hugging.
The same thing happened with Dylan Storm Roof.
Yeah.
He went and shot 9 black people in the church, and they fed him hamburgers and didn't even put him in handcuffs. And the black folks even forgave him, on national TV. Yeah. We have a bad habit of doing that.
So I'm gonna even say it's almost business as usual with that, with that depiction of how black people in general, I think we're too emotional at the wrong times. And I don't want to say, and let me say this, I don't think nothing wrong is anything wrong with emotion. I don't find anything wrong with the emotion. I do have an issue with how emotion is acted upon. If it's acted upon inappropriately and ineffectively. But the one thing about it is that he lied when he told when he talked to the family about Lamar Hoskins dying. He still lied in his act of being righteous. He talked about how he stopped the killer, and he would never allow the killer to get away with killing his best friend, but he didn't kill the actual killer, who was Carly Morgenthau. He killed one of the people that was part of a crew, the Flat Smashers.
Exactly.
But at the same time, and the mother, Lamar Hoskins' mother, was praising him, talking about how her son was proud of him and loved him and all this type stuff and all that. And
the Jesus syndrome, that's what I call it.
Yeah. So I thought that was for lack of a better word, interesting, But but yeah, we've seen this scene like plenty of times. The emotional family, being emotional in front of people in person too, who I think we shouldn't be that way.
I find it highly important, and I think it probably went over a lot of people's heads, but it didn't go over minds. And that is that John Walker didn't tell Lamar Hoskins' mother the literal truth of what all went down, how it all happened. And what I want to offer about that is that as Black people, we often don't think of white people lying to us as an act of racism. And what we need to come to the understanding of is that what reason do white folks have to lie to us for? Not only that, but that's how you confuse somebody, by telling them something that's true and also telling them something that's not true. And confusion is the prerequisite of domination.
And true facts.
And I think a lot of us don't understand that dynamic, and it's very costly for us. And it keeps helping this system stay in business.
Where confusion and deception are two of the major tools of refined white supremacists.
I agree. They can smile in your face and pretend to be your friend, but being white supremacists at the same time. And yes, I think that gets lost on a lot of us.
Oh, indeed. And that's and those ones are the most dangerous ones, according to the great Nelson Fuller Jr. And I agree. The ones that can be deceptive and confuse you, and you think you're friendly and know your friends. Those are the ones that you tend to let your guard down with. Those are the information with that you shouldn't share certain information with. And those that can betray you, infiltrate your situation, and make everything crumble and fall because you believe that they were on your side. So those are the dangerous ones, the ones who are refined enough to suppress their white supremacy.
Yeah, their overt white supremacist behavior.
Yeah, and anti-black racism again. You know what I mean? In order to gain your trust, in order to gain your praise, and everything. So yeah.
Okay, so we do a brief cut to Sharon Carter, who is in who we come to find out is we'll find out in episode 6 that she's the power broker, but she's also behind Batroc the Leaper from episode 1. The guy who the shenanigans he's up to, he's been put up to it by her. And in this episode, for me, is when I came to the conclusion that she's in fact a power broker, because she's got all these things going on, you know, all these connections to different people. But then right after that, we shoot right back to Sam Wilson and Bucky, and I think Sam was still trying to fix on the boat, the family boat. And what stuck out to me about this part of the episode is that he was unable to do so until the white man came to help him. and I find that to be, you know, significant because it's a reflection of real life. You know, as Black folks, we have a hard time admitting it, especially as Black males, but we don't manufacture anything. So we don't make boats. We don't make cars. We don't make rocket ships and trains and shit like that. So of course our knowledge about how these systems work is going to be very limited, and it leaves us in a situation where we're dependent on somebody else to give us information in order for us to do the things that we want to do in our lives. And I find that to be problematic because let's say, for example, that those folks decide not to share any information with us, or in fact give us the incorrect information, i.e. lie to us, then that means we can't get accomplished what we trying to get accomplished. It leaves us in a vulnerable situation. And even though this is a action series, it's a lot of messages that, you know, underlying messages that is given off that I think a lot of folks may miss, you know, because they more worried about being entertained than actually getting the undertones of the media. Did you happen to think about that in that way? And what is your commentary on the exchange that Sam Wilson and Bucky had a little later on, a few scenes on, when they got to throwing the shield around together?
Nah, man. In a boat scene, I mean, the way I saw that, like, it was just part of the show, as far as like the I don't say sidekick, but the partnership, you know. But the part that I do recognize more so that I think that's more beneficial for us to really adopt is the fact that
by the way, this is the part when Sam Wilson has that conversation with Bucky about the avenging thing.
Yeah. That's what I talked about earlier about the about making amends and all that. But
we always trying to counsel white folks as if they don't know that they did wrong.
But the part about the boat thing that I do like about what was depicted was Sam called on the community to come together and help them with their boat. I think that's a very important thing that was displayed. I think you know, it's probably seen as a minor thing, you know, like a warm-hearted type of thing. It was just showing it, whatever. But um, I think I'm not sure what to call it, but I think that was a good point to be made. Where I think a lot of times we think that we're by ourselves and we're alone until we call out for help.
Mhm. Yeah, you know, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it shows a dynamic that we generally like to think that we have amongst ourselves as Black people, and that's the community dynamic.
Mm,
But it always seems that we quote unquote come together for non-constructive things.
mm,
But in this episode, what was depicted was they would actually come together for a constructive reason, and
yeah,
I think that that's an important scene for people to pay some attention to. But we go on to see that Bucky Barnes and Sam part ways, with good tidings, and then
mm,
Sam seems to have made a decision without it being explicitly expressed
mm,
to in fact take on the mantle of Captain America, because we see now that he's practicing with the shield.
mm,
And it's a complete opposite to what we seen when John Walker was practicing with the shield. It was
mm,
like he was already good with it, but Sam
mm,
Wilson almost got his head took off a couple times,
mm.
if I recall correctly. You recall this part of the of
Good.
episode number 5?
Yes, a good point. Very good point. Very good point. Very good point. I'm talking. If you're not done, I'm touching on that for a second too. You
Oh
finished?
yeah, by all means, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, man. I didn't think about that. That's a good point, man. Uh, um, uh, I'm saying this about because I heard this by Kevin Samuels recently. He said, image matters, and the way they presented John Walker, he was polished, skilled, and all that with the shield already. And like you said, when we see Sam Wilson with the shield, he's training with it. He has pads wrapped against his trees on his land. Um, and you watching him be more human with it. Having flaws and everything. He's not as polished. We see him build up to gain that skill, which it is admirable, but it's not as polished and not made it seem as he's a natural.
That's an interesting choice of words, that he's not polished, considering that something that polishes gleams bright like it's white, and something that's unpolished is tarnished or colored
Mm,
or brown. So I
mm,
think that's a very interesting choice of words. He's
mm,
he's unpolished with the shield.
mm.
Yeah, that's
I,
very interesting.
but I will say, just me recognizing what I'm saying is that he is training on his own land. You know, he is making do with what he has, which Black people have been doing since we've been here, with the lack of resources, um, lack of everything, and everything against us, and everyone against us. He's making do with what he has. But
Hmm.
like you said, John Walker, he was given everything.
Hmm.
Um,
To
trained.
quote Tony Stark's, everything special about you came out of a bottle.
So
So
so, but I did notice that. I didn't notice that, whatever. But like I did, but also realizing but yeah, and like low key, man, it reminds me that it just lets us know that Black people, we gotta work hard. You know what I mean? It's let us know subconsciously or consciously, like, yo, we still gotta train and work hard, if not as double as hard, in order to be
yeah,
something.
yeah, we have to go through our John Henryism
Mm,
experience, as Mr. Fuller puts it.
mm,
Um, to conclude, because basically we at the end of this episode at this point, We do a quick flash to the flag smashers, who we now have noticed is in communication with Baltral the Leaper. I think that's how you say his name.
Batroc.
And Batroc the Leaper,
Okay.
who we know is working for Sharon Carter.
Mhm.
And we also come to find out we'll find this out in the next episode next week, that Sharon Carter was in contact with the Flag Smashers the entire time. And this is how we know that she is indeed the power broker. But after that, they are initiating their plan, because the I think it's the NGC has a like some kind of a summit coming up, and their plan is to disrupt that, which we'll get into in the next episode. And then we get a quick teaser about the new uniform that Falcon is going to be wearing from this point forward, because he's decided to take up the Captain America mantle. We now have another new Captain America. So this would be the fourth Captain America, literally. So we got Chris Evans' Captain America. Mm-hmm. Then we have Isaiah Bradley's Captain America. Mm-hmm. Then we have John Walken's Captain America. And now we have Sam Wilson as Captain America. So we keep going back and forth. Black, white, black, white, black, white. You know what I'm saying? I think that in itself is interesting. Mm-hmm. Because if you know anything about politics, all of the presidents have been white. There was once a black president. You could find him on the back of the $2 bill, if I'm not mistaken. He was a president of something. And then we went back to having white presidents until we got Obama. Now we back to white presidents. So, it is what it is. I see things. It may not be there. It may be there. I don't know. What you think? Let me have your closing thoughts on this episode before we get out of here, Brian, and get ready to do our finale on episode number 6 next week, same time.
I think I don't have anything else to add, man. That talk between Isaiah Bradley and Sam Wilson was a very good one. Was a great discussion. I think I think overall the talk that Sam Wilson had with Isaiah Bradley and with Bucky Barnes were good ones. That were a direct reflection on America as a whole and how Black people are treated, and how we should move forward and that's trying to figure things out while we're here, stuck in this predicament, and how we relate and how white America relates to us.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. You can get in touch with Mr. Briyan Wryter on his Instagram. The link is in the video description below. I have 2 Instagram pages. Follow me on both. The first one is the Incredible T.O.P. The second one is the T.O.P Cast Instagram page. And while you're working out, you're at work, or just driving in your car, catch episodes of the T.O.P Cast on Anchor Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Bring a friend. Tell your auntie I said what's up. Until next week, which we'll be covering the final episode number 6. I think the name of that episode is One World, One People.
Yeah.
And we go into a little bit more of our perspective of the MCU's rendition of the Marvel Universe and the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus series. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thanks again to you, Brian, for joining me for this episode. We'll be back next week around the same time to cover episode number 6 of the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Thanks. I hope everybody enjoyed the playback.
Peace.
Peace.